Maybe they were like the warrior monks.
Did you say monks?
I did. Monks.
Monkeys. They're warrior monkeys.
That's racist, man.
The monks. They are the warrior monks. Welcome to another episode of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on this March 16th, 2022, the day before St. Patrick's Day. Literally 2 years to the day when I lost my karaoke business, and it has never recovered. So today we have a brand new client. Our client is Five-Fingered Exploding Spleen Technique.
Behold, trapped in a hellscape of their own invention, socially unaware old white men bound by the pretense of being fake lawyers yet knowing no law, no exquisite Latin terminology, they are inexplicably compelled to quibble over minutia, squabble over triflings, and bicker like those who value their backyards far too highly without even knowing the difference between an easement and an alleyway. At this very moment, you have entered the heart of the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. Let's get started.
It's St. Patty's Day. We've got green beer.
It's beer that's green.
Green is the beer that we have.
Green beer, green beer, green beer.
Now selling at your local Safe Mart grocery store.
At Safe Mart, it's a Safe Mart. Come to Safe Mart and be safe.
That was
Green beer.
That's our fake sponsor for today. I was not too inspired.
You could have had a follow-up commercial for the special mop that cleans up the green vomit the next day. Or the sawdust. The green
I don't even understand that whole concept of green beer anyway. Like, why anybody would want to drink that stuff.
It's a novelty. It's
Yeah, but don't they know? I mean, like, what is the green?
it's dye, right?
Right. Well, I guess I would think it would be like food grade dye that they put in there. But imagine what it does.
Green beer tomorrow night. I'm
coats your insides. You know.
If I go to your show tomorrow night and they have green beer,
there is no if, Greg. There is no if. It shall be done.
Whatever, Yoda. There is no if. There is only do.
I did not say there is no try, but I've done that to you before as well. So. There is no try. There's do or do not. It shall be done. It is what needs to be. So for anybody who's paying attention on TikTok, I think there's 3 people actually watching on TikTok right now, running a podcast live. It's me and Greg with the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. If you go to our YouTube channel at Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on YouTube, and if you just search Law Offices of Quibble, you should be able to find us. Like I said, right now we're running things live, and I will take questions for anybody who chooses to make questions.
And since they can't hear me, I'm just going to say TikTok's stupid. Stop watching TikTok so much.
Well,
you're idiots.
If they come on YouTube, they will have heard that. But as far as I know, nobody's watching on YouTube. But anyway, so let's we've done our fake sponsor for today. So I guess we'll just go straight into our client, which is Five-Finger Exploding Spleen Technique, which essentially will be a discussion about martial arts, which Greg and I are not experts on by any stretch of the imagination. There's so many. Growing up, I always thought of martial arts as strictly like kung fu, right? But, technically, the term martial arts encompasses any military activity, I think, that kill people.
Well, yeah, the French have savate. It's not just an Asian thing.
Well, I mean, they have swords too, and they stab people with it. And that's like a martial art. Fencing is a martial art. Is that still
considered a martial art, though? I mean,
well, here's an interesting thing I found out when I was looking this up. Is like I realized that I didn't really know where the word martial comes from. Right? Do you know where it comes from, Greg?
Well, is it the same martial law?
Yeah, martial law does not change you knowing what the word martial means.
Marshall Matt Dillon.
So martial, M-A-R-T-I-A-L.
I'm trying to think of the Latin root. What Mars?
It comes from the Latin, and it means arts of Mars for the Roman god of war.
Yeah,
right?
martial. Yeah.
Exactly, but you never think of that, so it has to do with war. It's like learning how to fight war. Yeah. So I think the term martial arts got so used for kung fu and then karate and that type of thing, so it got more associated with that, where about people thinking that it really has to do with like swordplay.
Yeah.
So I've recently been taking Tai Chi, and I never thought of Tai Chi as a martial art. But that's exactly what it is. It's just the really slow moving martial art.
It is a meditative art.
Until you speed it up. And then it becomes like a legitimate martial art.
But you could find a tree sloth with Tai Chi, or a turtle, or tortoise.
It is a way to defend yourself against fresh fruit.
What was that from? I know
that's Monty Python.
Yes. Come at me with a banana.
If he comes at you with a cantaloupe, shoot him. That you shall defend yourself from a man with a handful of grapes. You eat each grape one by one, thus disarming him, then shoot him.
So technically, if like General Westmoreland was talking about his strategy of napalming villages in Vietnam, you could say that's the martial arts.
It is a martial art.
It's a way to fight a war.
Are you like autistic or something, Greg? You're like going back and forth right now on the screen. Did you get yourself like a rocking chair or something? No,
but you remember when you're in school, you tip in your chair and your teacher would say, "Stop doing that."
Today, Greg is on a boat. He's just rocking back and forth on his boat while we do the podcast.
I'm on my sex chair, my sex hammock.
Your martial art hammock. So it makes you wonder, like, how many martial arts there are. I guess there are as many as there are different societies or countries and cultures that develop their own way of fighting. What would you say are the most well-known? I mean, I said Kung Fu. I think Kung Fu is like way up there.
Karate's probably right up there too. Karate and Kung Fu.
Right. There's Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, but that seems like a lesser one. Like, it seems like it was the big one.
It seems like it, but after seeing a number of different Ultimate Fighting Championship type programs, it seems that the jiu-jitsu practitioners are the ones who are most effective at winning those fighting championship because it combines grappling as well as kicking and pinching bottoms and whatever else they do.
Pinching bottoms. So it mixes wrestling with like Asian martial arts.
Yeah, but there's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is apparently the more popular one, and I don't know what the difference is with the.
And there's also what's the Brazilian one that's based on dancing, capoeira.
It's like capoeira.
Capoeira, like
that's like whenever they're doing like their little somersaults, you kick them in the crotch. Because you know they're going to spin a little bit, so that's the perfect opportunity to just like nail them in the crotch.
Okay,
they're spinning in front of you.
I thought it was based on the fact that West Side Story was very popular in Brazil, and so they based their martial arts on that.
So West Side Story is a martial art show, is what you're saying.
Well, they are. They're doing this dancing, fighting style. It doesn't seem very effective. It seems like it wouldn't hurt. They're just kind of twirling around.
So according to Wikipedia here, they've broken things up for unarmed combat, unarmed martial arts.
And that's what we think of as martial arts, right? That's what we...
Well, there's armed... Well, a lot of those unarmed martial arts sometimes have weapons in them as well. Like
nunchucks.
They'll have those...
Nunchucks.
Yeah. And, I've never understood why they're called nunchucks, because that's not what their name is. It's like another one of those words where we've bastardized it because we're too lazy to say the actual word.
Well, it's spelled nunchakas, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So it's close.
Nunchaku. No, it's not numchucks, though.
I didn't say numchucks. I said nun.
They're nunchucks. They're chucks that don't exist. Are those nunchucks? I don't see any.
Wait, it is nun, right?
Yeah.
I thought I said numb.
But a lot of people do say nunchucks, though.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, they do. It's like what I'm saying.
But that's funny because they do make you numb when they hit you. They hurt so much. If you accidentally hit your arm, it's like,
I hurt myself. I whacked myself on the forehead.
I remember because I grew up in the 80s when all that shit was so popular, like ninja stuff, getting nunchucks. And every kid I knew just hurt themselves way more.
I had a friend of mine in college who was adamant about the fact that he was a master of ninjutsu. You know, like that was the big deal. This is back in the mid 80s
Yeah.
or something. And none of us believed him. We thought it was like total bullshit. And he was just like saying this to try and get us to believe him for whatever reason. But it's like another friend of mine they both kind of grew up in a similar section of town in Maryland, also lied about his father being dead to me for some unknown I don't even know why. He for the longest time acted like his father was dead. And then one time, I don't know why. It was weird. This is my friend who later became like in the band Thievery Corporation. He was the sax player in that. So Frank, if you're listening, I'm outing you for your weirdness back in the 80s. So yeah, and then one day we went to his house and there was a guy there and he introduced him as Frank. So there's like another Frank and I'm like, this is your dad, isn't it, Frank? He's like, yeah. I'm like, why the hell did you lie to me? He's like, oh, I just was embarrassed and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, that's just one of the stranger things. So him and like the other friend who was from the same town who was saying that he was a practitioner of ninjutsu, you know, and he also could sing like Brad Delp from Boston. Apparently those were all of his talents.
Skill set.
Well. Yeah. I know. It's just, you know, it's interesting what people will say and pretend about themselves. Well, maybe it was all true. Maybe
I just guy in Tucson. His name was Trip, and Trip Wallen. I wanted to see if we'll get sued.
They called him Trip Wallen,
and he was such a liar. We all were friends with him, but he would just make up shit. Like if he went out to coffee with someone, he'd tell us all how he was dating this girl. It was like, and the girl would be like, "No, I just went out to coffee with him once, like for 10 minutes." But then he made bigger lies. And like he read the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And
then he said he was a Malcolm X.
No, but all of a sudden he was 1/8 black. And this guy looked like Milhouse from The Simpsons. I know you don't get that reference. He was so fucking white.
Well, I mean, everybody in The Simpsons is yellow.
Yeah, he was a totally nerdy white guy, and all this like that's how much he would lie. Like he just wanted. I guess he was insecure and wanted to impress people all the time.
Well, maybe I'm wrong about the color of the people in The Simpsons. They're more like a goldenrod.
No, they are yellow. They're pretty bright yellow. Yeah, that's
The Simpsons. They're not goldenrod.
Maybe goldenrod.
Yeah, I think they're closer to.
Yeah, now you're quibbling again.
No, I'm being more specific, Greg.
Flaxen.
Quibbling. Flaxen.
But
Simpson is all like everyone who is related to Goldilocks.
But it seems like almost all the martial arts, as far as let's use that definition of just hand-to-hand combat. Maybe you can pick up some bow staff or something.
Well, I hadn't gotten to that part yet.
I know what I'm saying. All the ones we know seem to be Asian. Most of them. It's like there's tons of Asian ones. Judo, jiu-jitsu, even sumo wrestling.
Now, did you do any unarmed combat growing up yourself of any kind?
I did Taekwondo for a few months and I was terrible. So it was humiliating and I stopped because I was like 16 and all my punk rock friends, for some reason, we were like, oh, let's all take Taekwondo. Maybe so we could beat up the jocks who were picking us, trying to beat us up all the time.
Beat up the jocks.
And there was like 8-year-old kids in that class. And a lot of the class when you're starting out is like doing balance things where you lift up one leg and just hold it for 20 seconds. And so these little 8-year-old kids were doing it better than I could. And it was humiliating. So I just gave up. So I don't even know if I got my white belt, if I even made it to the level of being a white belt.
I know I did judo back in junior high, either 8th or 9th grade. And I learned how to count to 10 in Japanese, which I don't remember much. It's like echi ni sanshi go roku, and I get lost. I think that's as far as I go for counting to 10. And I think I got to like a yellow belt or something. I think my brother might have gotten to brown. He got more into it than I did, so that was never really my thing. I was in sports in school anyway, so it was like I didn't really need the judo thing so much. But judo is interesting. That was called the gentle sport.
Yeah, because judo is what like people who aren't very big, maybe not even strong, take because you use your opponent's strength against them.
Theoretically, yes.
So like women. It's good for women.
Well, there's no blows. There's no blows in judo. You're not like beating on people.
Yeah.
You're basically just swinging them around. So it's really good for like Karens, you know, where they can just like swing around their kids to throw at people because they're not actually hitting the people they're upset at.
Or tackle black men who happen to wander into their neighborhood on accident.
Yeah, so judo is good. If you're a Karen, in quotes, judo is the sport you should do because that'll help you the best in yanking your children around. Now, boxing, though, is considered a martial art in case, people tend to think of the Asians styles to be martial arts.
Savate, French.
Savate. Savate is a kicking one.
And
Wing Chun and karate and box are considered the punching of the unarmed ones. And then there's Muay Thai.
what's that?
Muay Thai. I don't know if you saw.
Cocktail?
There's a martial artist by the name of Tony Jaa, who did a series of movies, and he's a Muay Thai specialist, which is basically a Thailand form of martial arts where he uses a lot of elbows and knees to hurt people, which makes a lot of sense, actually. Because you protect yourself more if you're using your elbows and knees than if you use your fist, So, and this guy was highly athletic. You should check out one or two of his beginning movies. You'd be very, very impressed at his athleticism. And then there is a couple of striking unarmed martial arts that I've never heard of before that Wikipedia has here. We've got Penchat Silat and Kalari Payatu, and I have no idea what those mean or what those are. There's also
those Asian?
Lethway. I don't. I'm assuming they're Asian because they don't sound English to me.
One of them sounded almost like Indian. Is there an Indian martial art? Kalari
Payatu, that is Indian. It's also known as Kalari. It's an Indian martial art that originated in modern day.
Is that what Dalsim does in Street Fighter? Where your arms stretch out 10 feet long?
I don't know who Dalsim is.
He's a character, an Indian character in Street Fighter, who his killer blow is he does this double fist punch that actually his arms stretch like across the screen like Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they do there. They all have the ability in that country to stretch their arms out like Mr. Fantastic or like Plastic Man or Elongated Man, any of those stretchy guys.
Yeah.
Stretch Armstrong, he's well known for that too, from being from that
Flat
country.
Man.
Right. And Penchat Silat is an Indonesian martial art. And then I'm wondering what Lethwai is. Oh, it's Burmese. So Burmese boxing is Lethwai. And then in the grappling martial arts, you've got basic wrestling. Then you've got Hapkido, Sumo, Aikido, and Judo. Then you got joint lock, chokehold, submission hold. It's Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Sambo, and catch wrestling. So they've got that. Then pinning techniques, Judo, wrestling, Aikido. So that's the unarmed ones. Now, the armed ones, again, is traditional martial arts. The
fencing,
melee weapons, like bladed weapons, pole arms. And like Eskrima, which is like a Filipino knife martial art. There's a lot of people who are experts at that. As a matter of fact, when I used to work a corporate gig, my boss was actually a kung fu expert. He was actually on the cover of Warrior magazine many, many, many years ago, and won numerous tournaments. And every so often, him and one of the vice presidents of the company would come back. And typically, the vice president would have a black eye. They'd come back from lunch. And I'm like, oh, I know what they've been doing.
I think you should call it. Nobody thought to call HR. That seems pretty abusive.
They would go. They would go sparring for during their lunch break. And the thing that sucked about this, because these guys are such good athletes. Like my boss, he was the CEO of the company. He didn't know racquetball, and we started playing racquetball. And because he was such a good athlete, eventually he started beating me, which pissed me off because I played racquetball for years. And like suddenly I'm getting beaten by this guy who's like 10 years older than me. I'm like, this is not okay. And it's not fair. But, you're dealing with a guy who's incredibly competitive. And he put me on the racquetball court because he wanted to see how competitive I was, which is when I used to play racquetball, I was really competitive. I would throw myself all over the place. I would hurt myself. But don't play no more because the joints can't take it. And I'm incredibly fat, so there's that. And that's not a martial art, though. Although I think racquetball could be a martial art if you're using shrunken heads instead of a ball.
That would turn into a martial art.
Right. Somehow you could turn it into one.
I just want to tell a story about it. I knew this guy who played racquetball. He was almost as big as you. He was a huge guy. Yeah. And he kicked the shit out of all of his friends, including me, because racquetball, a lot of it's about math. It's almost like pool. he didn't have to run around because he could see in his brain where figure out the trajectory of the ball.
Yeah.
So he wasn't moving much, but he knew because a lot of times in racquetball when I was starting out, I had never progressed that far. I'd be running around but I shouldn't have. I thought, the ball's going this way, and then I have to run back. Bill just could stand there pretty much and just be like, "Oh yeah, it's coming this way. Okay, maybe I'll just step 3 steps this way because I know the trajectory." Yeah. It was amazing watching him play. Like he didn't raise a sweat, and he kicked our asses. We'd all be running around diving for balls.
I mean, even guys like that though, you can make them run.
Yeah, sometimes you can, but. Yeah. He was really good at knowing
matter of where you're hitting the ball.
So as soon as you hit the ball, he could almost tell, like, I can semi-slowly walk 3 feet this way. I'd have to wait till the last minute because I wasn't sure where the ball. I'd have to watch it, and then I'd be like, okay, now it's coming this way. Now I run to catch it.
Well, you had issues with math anyway, didn't you? Because that's why you became a creative.
I was good at math,
but not good at geometry.
I think I was pretty good at geometry.
Okay, well, because geometry is more in play than calculus in racquetball.
Exactly. Yeah. I wasn't good at calculus actually. That was the one that hurt me. That hurt my brain.
You're not doing simple subtraction or addition in racquetball, other than subtracting yourself from the court by walking out.
Yes,
or addition when you're adding the points up. But mainly, it's like angles. You're dealing with angles in racquetball.
Yeah.
But again, not a martial art unless you sharpen your racket and you stab somebody with it, and then it can be
contact racquetball. And you tackle them when they're trying to get the ball.
That would be a completely different form of martial art. Form of racquetball is tackle racquetball.
It would be like rollerball.
Yeah, right. Something similar to that. So, like we were saying before we started the show, I am currently doing Tai Chi, and I remember watching a Jet Li movie a number of years ago where he did. It was a kung fu movie basically, and he lost his memory or something, and he picks up Tai Chi as like an exercise form, and then he finds a way to turn it into like an incredibly effective martial art using the meditative nature of Tai Chi, and he had like this thing he did with a ball that he was like playing with this ball, and then he found a way to like make this ball move so fast it could crack a concrete wall, which was kind of ridiculous, but it was fun to see. So I think that may have been what caused me to have some interest in wanting to do Tai Chi. That and the fact that it's easy on the joints and it's easy to move around. Yeah. But I tell you, man, I am so uncoordinated that if anybody watched me while I was doing this, they would go, "Oh, you need to give that up like right away."
You know what that reminds me of is I read somewhere that samurai used to all have to study calligraphy as part of their training, because that graceful movement of using a pen very deftly and gracefully is in a miniature version of sword play, of the movements you would use to be a good swordsman. And it would.
Did you say swordsman?
Swordsman.
Swordsman, is that how you pronounce it? Swordsman, which you think would be the actual pronunciation would be swordsman, because there's a W in there for a reason.
But not fjordsman. It would make him a good fjordsman.
What if you're a swordsman in a fjord?
Sword swordsman.
And if your name was Bjorn?
Bjorn swordsman. That's a tongue twister.
And then you had a son that was born.
So I had a character.
So Bjorn's son was born by the fjords when he's the swordsman.
So I had a character in one of my stories who was one of the Chinese coolies who was basically enslaved by the railroads. And
did you actually use the word coolie?
I think you're allowed to. In history books, I read it all the time. I'm always confused by that. It sounds so derogatory.
Yeah, there's a word in Huckleberry Finn that shouldn't be used either.
No, I'm saying in history books, they still use that word, because I read a lot about. I like reading history books, and they'll just say it like that's what they were. They were called the coolies, and that's what they call them. They don't, they don't say, oh, the semi-enslaved Chinese workers, immigrants. It's just
for some reason I feel like that's a derogatory term.
I know it sounds so derogatory. I thought it would have been canceled by now, but I still
it is. It is a derogatory term. It says it's
but they still use it.
Okay, that doesn't make it okay, Greg.
In history,
Continuing the history. Yeah,
okay,
there are words in history that are used, but this isn't history here.
Those still used by modern historians.
Yeah, I know, but you are not a historian.
No, I'm not, but I read.
But you just used the word.
I'm telling a story from history, so it's okay.
As soon as it comes out of your mouth, it becomes history. Everything is in the past, Greg.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's entirely
My
true.
My breakfast is not history.
It is. It is history. Today. It is history, Greg.
Not much history.
It's in the past, right? Isn't that what history is?
2 hours ago.
Right. That's also
nobody
history.
should study that in history.
That is, you shouldn't study it, but it is in your history.
Yes, it is. But I'm talking about history.
It is part of Greg's history.
History. Like when you read a history book about the 1800s and the making of the railroads, the transcontinental railroad. But this character, who let's call him a.
You could call them an unskilled native laborer from China, as opposed to using that term.
That doesn't really capture what they were.
I know if you want to be offensive, sure, but
no,
the
not
fact
offensive.
Is that,
more,
yeah.
Mr. Quibble, I thought would like this. It's more direct. They were basically.
I do not accept the term Mr. Quibble, so that goes to you.
Okay, they were
talking about yourself.
They would basically trick these Chinese people, and they'd say like, "Hey, there's great jobs in America." Like all kinds of people would sign up.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And then when they got here, they were basically what's the word? Not a slave, but a indentured servant.
Yeah.
And they were like treated like just whipped and killed, and so this guy's a calligrapher in China, and then he thinks he's going to get some good job in America. He becomes a railroad worker.
I thought you said for a second that he became a werewolf.
That's later on in the story.
He comes from China, joins the railroad, and then suddenly he's a werewolf.
But there's no pens in the railroad. There's no access to like a nice inkwell. So every night he goes out with a broom and he makes the letters in the sand. He does his art. So basically, he gives himself a crash course in being a great swordsman. Because not only is he doing calligraphy, he's doing it with a big broom. So his muscles are learning totally all the movements that a swordsman would need to do.
The swordsman from Fjord?
A fjordsman would need.
A fjordsman?
But I just thought that was fascinating when I heard about that calligraphy thing. Like, oh, I guess I could see that. Like, that's how...
Well, you know, in the movie Hero, which is getting another Jet Li reference in here, there's a character in that movie who is also the guy who played the Mandarin in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. He was in that movie with Jet Li.
Real Mandarin.
Yes. He was doing calligraphy with like a giant paintbrush, which like helped his sword play out as well in that movie. I don't know if you remember that part or not, but I've seen that movie many, many times. One of my favorite kung fu movies.
But I'll have my lawyers call their lawyers and talk about this because I came up with my idea first.
Why would you have your lawyers call when you're a fake lawyer yourself?
Well, I'm a fake lawyer. I need a real lawyer for this.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, then that makes sense. Well, we don't have anybody watching on TikTok now, and I don't think that we've got...
I was fascinated by all these martial arts that you're mentioning. We're like, especially the Asian ones, are hundreds of years old. Maybe some are thousands of years old. But then there's Jeet Kune Do, which Bruce Lee made up in the late 60s, early 70s. And that is a lot of followers.
Well, that was Bruce Lee's martial arts.
That's what I just said.
I think he created that.
That's what I just said. Yeah.
I didn't hear you say Bruce Lee. Oh, by the way, Happy Hour News Team and Sanchez El Dorado are on YouTube right now. They have stated that judo is the art of folding clothes with people still in them. And then Sanchez says maybe get a newer book. I don't know what he's referring to. Oh, but your history.
The history book.
Your history book that talks about you going to the bathroom.
So judo, I guess, was made by laundrers.
Japanese laundromats is what you... I always thought it was a Jewish martial art. You know, it makes more sense.
J-E.
It's in the name. It's in the name. And, you know, you think that because Jews were a nomadic group of people, that they would have created their own martial art as well. But I guess this just came down to camels or something. I don't know.
And the Jews were so picked on throughout their history, you'd think they would have been pretty good at, like, we got to defend ourselves. We got to make up a martial art.
I think their martial art was sarcasm. That's what I really think. I think that's what they developed. They developed sarcasm to get out of things. That's what I
And
think.
guilt. They guilt people into not beating them up.
And so, like, it makes sense that the Catholics would pick up on the guilt too, because they're like one of the earliest forms of Christianity,
Yeah.
coming out of Judaism. You know.
By the way, I heard this somewhere that I think Israel has their own martial art they've invented since Israel started. The Israeli army has a certain martial art that's different. It probably
I
incorporates
can't
other
wait to
martial
hear
arts.
what you say it's called.
I'm not making a joke, so I have no funny name. It's
all right. Well, then I have
it
no
translates
idea what you're talking
in Hebrew. It translates to Palestinian killer.
Palestinian killer.
Yeah,
That's
ways to kill the Palestinians.
It's called
with your
landmines,
hands.
is what it is.
But with your hands, it's a real martial. Like it's a hand-to-hand combat that I hear the Israeli.
Wait,
army
you said
call.
it's a pan-to-hand combat? In other words, they're fighting with like cast iron pans? Is that what
Yes,
that's
in a hand-to-hand,
that's
but
the
I'm-
martial art? Is they have cooking utensils and they go out onto the field with like frying pans?
Would that be so bad? A frying pan is a good weapon.
It's like it's pan-to-hand combat, just like you said.
Yeah, it could be good.
Pan to hand. They go out and they just like beat other people in the hand with their pans. And that's
Yeah.
their martial art.
Like Maggie and Jigs and bringing up father. She'd always still pans at his head when she was angry. With
All
him.
right, Greg, you want to talk about history? Bringing up father? Seriously? Wasn't that from like the 1950s?
Even earlier, starting in the 20s.
In the 20s. Oh, is
Yeah,
this
it's
a
a-
comic strip?
It's the most popular comic strip in America, though.
Oh, I thought you were talking about. I thought the Yellow Kid was the most popular one.
That was the earliest. It was
Yeah.
already gone, though, by the time Bringing Up Father came around. But it was typical, like, that's domestic humor, which was like a trope back then. Like, the wife would get so mad at the husband, she'd be throwing pans at his head. And I remember Mad Magazine had this parody of that whole idea where they showed what would really happen in that situation. And the husband's just bloody and, like, his face is broken. Like, if a wife was really doing that, throwing pots and pans at her husband when she got angry with him, this guy would be in the hospital every week. But they just played it for laughs. It was just like, oh, look at him run from a deadly weapon thrown at his head.
You know, I think if you and Jen had actually gotten married, that you guys would be practicing pan-to-hand combat a lot. You know?
I think so.
Instead, you're
But-
just doing ashtray-to-head combat.
But think about a pan, though. It's almost
Yeah.
like a great weapon and a shield, a mini shield. So, like, somebody throws a dart at you, a poison dart, you're like, whoa, and stop it. And then you hit them in the head with it. It's not a bad weapon. 2 metal pans in your hands. That could be a martial art.
Well, I think it was in at least one movie. It was what was it? Throw Mama from the Train, where they used the
I vaguely
pan-
remember that movie.
It was with that old lady.
No, Danny DeVito. I totally
like,
remember it. but I
Danny
don't
DeVito. It wasn't
remember-
Billy Crystal in that too.
I think so.
It's like Billy was like the nebbish type, or Danny DeVito. And one of them was trying to like kill their mother.
One thing I always remember that movie is in the beginning when he's taking a writing class.
Yeah.
Everyone's writing serious novels and stuff, and Danny DeVito writes a book, 50 Women I'd Like to Pork, and it's just photos of the 50
Well, that would not be written by a Jew because
women
they wouldn't be involving pork in that.
in the movie. I don't know if he plays a Jew.
Oh, okay. Well, Sanchez Eldorado says that Israeli martial art you're talking about is Krav Maga.
Yes, that sounds.
But
right.
he spells Marshall like Marshall Matt Dillon is what he does instead. So in this case, it sounds like it's Matt Dillon is actually doing some drawing, and that's martial art. So it's
Yeah.
like paintings from Marshall Matt Dillon.
Or it's the martial arts. It's police work. You know, being a policeman,
Yeah.
marshal with the SH.
Or it has something to do with Mars bars, and those are Marshall. And so it's got to do with candy bars, and you're only able to fight type 2 diabetics.
By throwing them in their mouth.
Right? Make them eat it, jack their blood sugar off, and send them into a coma. That's how that works. All right. Well, I think we've come to the halfway mark. I think it's time for our favorite cooking segment, or our only cooking segment. That is what makes it the favorite, I believe.
Wait, can I just say a bad joke real quick? What if there was gluto instead of judo, where you would throw bread into gluten-free people's mouths and send them into an allergic reaction? Kung glue.
I like Kung Glue. kind of how I feel right now. I'm a little becoming unglued. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get Waspy here. I think he's got something special to share. So we'll see. Can you see Waspy right now? Is he there?
Yep.
Food is for eating. Food is for eating. Food is for eating with Waspy Soda Pop.
Hey there, everybody. This is Waspy Soda Pop. This is a St. Patrick's Day edition. I got another cousin from across the pond, I think is what they call it. Today we got Fudge Pop Sud, all the way from Ireland. Aye, in Bigorra. This is Fudge Pop Sud. We've got traditional Irish cold cannon. The ingredients, they're a common. You get 1 dash of salt. You can add more if you want. 2 russet potatoes, peeled and quartered. 2 planks of ash tree bark. 4 ounces of curly kale, chopped and stems removed. 2 spring onions. 4 ounces of unsalted butter. 1 spring onion, finely chopped. Freshly ground black pepper to taste. You can add 2 more ounces of unsalted butter if you choose for serving. Now we make it. You lightly salt a pot of hot water and simmer the potatoes until soft in the middle when pierced with a sharp knife. Do not pierce your skull with it. I tell you, it's a bad thing to do. In a different pot, you blanch the curly kale in boiling water for 1 minute. You drain the kale in reserve. Place the half cup of roughly chopped spring onions and the blanched kale into a blender and pulse for 10 seconds until roughly mixed. Just like if you're on the docks and they're coming after you and you've got to run, but you don't want it that rough. Then you drain the potatoes and add 4 ounces of butter. Mash the potatoes and butter until smooth and creamy. Add the kale and spring onion mixture and stir it well. Add the 1/4 cup of finely chopped spring onions and season with salt and pepper to taste. Top the mash with the optional 2 ounces of butter if you desire it. Insert the planks of the ash tree bark gently into the mash. Serve it and enjoy. And that's how you make Irish traditional cold cannon with ash tree bark. May you escape the gallows, avoid distress, and be as healthy as a trout. And may the leprechauns dance over your bed and bring you sweet dreams. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, thank you so much there, folks. So that was quite the recipe. This is Waspy Soda Pop. See you next week on Food is for Eating.
If this was like 1902, that would be so racist.
Why? I mean, I'm willing to believe that he's related to Waspy Soda Pop. All of his cousins seem to have similar voices.
No, people don't like the accents anymore, you know. But now Irish people.
But it's a real Irishman, Greg. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, so he's just talking that stereotypically.
It was like this guy from Ireland who was talking that way.
Who grew up with a bad Irish accent somehow, even though he grew up.
You know, we grew up with bad American accents, don't we? So
that's true. But I don't understand why is that recipe seemed to be 1/2 butter, just added at different times.
Well, it seemed like it was easily made. It was like mashed potatoes with kale, and it's curly kale. I don't even know what the hell that is. Curly kale.
Is that a real part of Colquhoun? Like, did you stick to the recipe? I'm sorry.
Cold cannon is what it's called. Well, you know, I think the best part of that recipe is the ash tree bark that is placed.
Really? That's the best part.
I think so. That's like the surprise you get when you bite into it, right?
Makes it nice and crunchy.
Right? Makes you lose a couple of teeth.
Good roughage, though. You'd probably you'd be
plenty of roughage.
Free and easy for a couple days.
Maybe. I don't know if you digest bark how it goes for you, but maybe you guys from Happy Hour News Team can let us know how they do chewing on trees in North Dakota in the dead of winter. But
that's how they do it there.
You know, do we have any native martial arts in the United States of America? Like ones like
UFC. WWE wrestling, the double suplex, the triple suplex.
You know, like maybe Jeet Kune Do could be that since Bruce Lee developed, I think, while he was in the United States.
I think he did, yeah.
Well, I mean, he learned his style from Ip Man. Have you seen all the Ip Man movies?
I haven't seen them all, but I know of what you speak.
I know of what you speak.
master.
I know of the Ip Man of which you speak.
I just thought, can you do something when you edit the show to make our our voices lag behind our mouths by 1 second, so it'll look like a kung fu movie that's poorly dubbed?
We can, but I don't like doing that because it's very
It'll be
it's very
good
off-putting.
for the topic, for the client.
We will have our own kung fu moves. Yeah, hee-haw.
These guys know terrific kung fu. Master Lee says that these guys are going to beat our school. We have to fight them.
My pasta.
I always like how that movie
said
always
you.
had.
You cannot ever come to my place again.
I always love how all those movies had that 110-year-old guy who owned the tea shop, who was always this cowardly, just like, please, please.
I tell you, it's funny you should do that because that's what you reminded me of every time I saw you with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like anything she wanted, that's how you acted. Anytime she was upset, that's how you acted.
And all of a sudden, my mustache would turn into this long.
Yes, and then you would stroke it. You would stroke it like at length. Yes, my mustache is. Where does the word mustachio come from? Whenever people have a mustache,
is that what the word was originally called?
I don't know.
Yep.
It's
an
it's
Italian
one of those
word?
things that kind of have to be looked. But would there be a mustache martial art? Is the real question.
I can't imagine how that would work. If maybe the stubble could hurt someone, you could rub the stubble.
Like if you're in a UFC match, right, or a mixed martial arts match, where you get them down on the mat, and then you start rubbing your chin into their forehead or something, and then you have like a mustache foo or mustache rati.
Yeah, right in their eyeballs. So I think America, we made.
That's the Italian martial art, apparently.
So traditional boxing, I guess, started in England, right? But it's pretty American. I mean,
I don't know if it started in England.
I think it did.
It probably started whenever, the first caveman tried to steal somebody's food.
No, but the actual art of fisticuffs as we know boxing.
Oh, fisticuffs are we bringing up now, are we?
Like this kind of fisticuffs. When you do this shit, you know how the old... In Britain, they would punch like this.
In Britain.
Like in those old Monty Python cartoons. They'd be
Gentleman Jim Corbett?
Yeah. And I think that was a British style.
I gotta pound you.
But everyone in America was basically, the majority were British. So it was we just took it over here. We probably changed it a little.
I don't know that it started in Great Britain.
Well, I thought it did. But that, what Queensberry rules, the traditional boxing.
They may have, it's kind of like soccer, right? They may have codified it. They may have made it more Britified, anglicized.
But you could probably say that about judo. Any of those martial arts probably were what something a caveman did, and hey, that works.
I was doing some digging on the word mustache. So mustache is French, but it's derived from the Italian mustachio.
That's what I said.
Dialectical mustachio, but that comes from the medieval Latin mustachium, and the medieval Greek, which is mustachion, and then that comes from Hellenistic Greek of mustax, meaning upper lip or facial hair, probably derived from the Hellenistic Greek.
And in Arabic, it's called Mustafa.
But when they say mustachioed, it's generally referring to a particularly large or bushy mustache. So probably that mustache I used to have, which was
with curly cues and.
That's right. I had the 3 rings coming out of my face way back when.
Yeah, you look like a circus ringmaster. I
always like how we start off with 2 or 3 people on TikTok, and we always end up with 0 people watching us on TikTok.
We're not dancing.
I'm glad I finally noticed where they disappear on here.
Yeah, we're not dancing.
We did get 3 likes. Sometimes we get a few hundred likes on TikTok, and sometimes we get hardly any now. So I got 3.
So they don't even watch us, and yet they still like us.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird Pavlovian response, I think, on TikTok.
Just to be nice. They're like, oh, these guys seem like generally nice guys, even though they suck at podcasting, but let's give them a like. Like a gold star for a kid.
Yeah, well, I don't even know how much they pay attention, It's hard to say.
Well, they obviously turn off and stop watching it, so they didn't like it. They don't think we're that worthy of watching.
Well, we're a couple old white guys, you know. Makes
Well,
sense.
we
It's
could be two
understandable.
funnier, more entertaining white guys.
We could. I keep wondering if like we'll ever find like our actual tribe or not, Greg. You know, like the people who exist in
Outside
large
of North
quantities.
Dakota?
Outside of North Dakota. Well, there's Paula. Paula still listens to us.
My
Paula's
brother-in-law-
like listen to everything except for like the last episode. Generally, she's like she enjoys it and she said so. So I'm like, and we get about between 25 to 40 people a week, just strictly the podcast platform. And on YouTube, we range between like 10 to 30. So if you put all those people in one room, it'd be a very full room and it would be a nice little party. So we have we have our own little cult. It's the cult of the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker that listen to us for some reason. Now, when we did that Joe Rogan episode, though, that spiked our numbers. Like, surprisingly so.
Because it was topical.
I know, but we did Ukraine and we did the Freedom Convoy, but they didn't get the same amount of speed. But I think it's because Rogan's a podcaster, and I think that's what did that. So,
by the way,
I know that this is not topical what we're doing today. So,
just want to give a little news update, guys. I hung out with my Canadian friends yesterday. Even though all the restrictions have been lifted for the COVID shit, the Freedom Convoy is still furious and still going at it.
We'll have that mandate lifted, even though it's lifted already.
Yeah. It's like I haven't been following it, but they told me, they kind of caught me up on it. And they were like, and second of all, the whole thing they were fighting about, it's like they couldn't do that in the first place. They couldn't cross the border or whatever that way. But they were mad. I don't know why, just because they said on top of that, because of COVID, you can't cross the border. They couldn't have done it in the first place, even before COVID.
Well, so since we're digressing, why don't we just go ahead and go into Ask Greg? We should just do that. I think that's necessary now. Here we go.
He has an opinion, may not always be right. He's a real fake lawyer. He's old and he's white. Ask him a question, 'cause he's a good egg for bogus advice. Ask Greg. Ask Greg. Ask Greg.
Dear Greg, which martial art would the hands not be considered lethal weapons?
Savate.
The feet would be, though.
A kickboxing, yeah. But the hands would not. Any kind of judo. Judo's all about like wrestling moves, throwing. The hand doesn't necessarily do the killing blow. So,
and legally, how did that come about? How did it come about legally that any martial art, in terms of just an unarmed one, people could be called lethal?
Because you forged your hands into deadly weapons by studying karate, for example. So your hand is a deadly weapon.
How did you pronounce that, Greg?
That's the correct way, apparently.
Yeah,
karate.
Are you American?
Karate.
Pronounce it however you want to pronounce it, Greg.
I like.
Do you pronounce them tacos or tacos?
I pronounce them tacos because that's how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Quesadilla or quesadilla?
Quesadilla. Nobody says that. No, I'm sure.
Wigwam or teepee?
Oh, those are both valid. There's two.
Both good.
They're
both
synonyms,
good.
Aren't they?
Ashkenazi or Sephardic?
What about a yurt? Yurt or teepee?
Yak
or
milk?
Igloo?
Fermented yak milk or tequila? Are they pronounced the same or not?
I don't know now. I'm confused.
I don't even know what we started on, and I've already confused myself.
Well, yes, there's a good reason. If you have deadly hands, just like the old comic book Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, they should be registered just like a gun. If I can kill you with my hands, those are deadly weapons.
Yeah, but anybody could kill anybody else with their hands. You can just poke somebody in the eyeball or in the
gouge
nose.
their eyes out to the brain.
Yeah, exactly. It could be some little old lady. You can still do it.
It's harder if you're like a master of kung fu, like Shang-Chi. You could
who's not
you would know how to just karate chop someone in the windpipe there and just kill them easy peasy. I'm not gonna say the rest. Easy peasy, nice and easy.
Shanty says that there are a couple of old white guys also.
Yes,
but nowhere near. He's not as old as
But they average us out, though, don't they? Because
Sanchez is like 10 years older than me,
us.
but Shanty's like 10 years younger
10 years
than
younger
you.
Than probably even more.
But he is balder, so maybe that counts for something. Maybe Shanty's baldness makes him older.
Shanty's bald? I don't remember. I thought he had a nice head of hair.
No, he does not. He
has
a nice head of hair on the side of his head.
I have a terrible visual memory.
You should send him some of your curly locks so he can glue them to the top of his head.
Yeah. I wish I could send him.
And you could teach him hair fu. How to fight with your hair.
With your follicles.
I am so irreverent. It's crazy. I'm just...
Irreverent's not the word.
No? What's the word, Greg?
Inane.
Oh, inane. Okay. That's another partner of the law offices.
Dada.
Quibble, Squabble, Inane, and Bicker. We have so many partners we could add to the title. Maybe we should just like have the title, the name of the law offices just get longer and longer.
Yeah, we should get more partners.
We should. As each of us disappear, where it's just me or just you doing the podcast at some point.
Obviously, Inanity has done a lot of work for our podcast. It's really
a manatee.
Inanity.
Oh, inanity. Yes,
it's done a lot of work.
They say a manatee. I'm like, what?
It's become a big part of our law office clientele. So maybe we should include them. I mean, they've done the work. They've earned it. They've earned partnership.
Yeah, but it doesn't quite fit with the theme of the law offices, though. I mean, there's the quibbling, there's the squabbling, and there's the bickering. It's more like a deliberate attacks of annoyance.
Those are all kind of semi-synonymous, those three words, but we also do, on top of being
quibble is not synonymous with... Squabbling and bickering is more synonymous than quibbling is.
This is true. And so, but even though we have those three things, a lot of our show is just being inane. And,
your inanity is my reality.
And as the kids would say, we're random. We're rando.
I don't think kids are saying that anymore.
I'm sure it's 15 years old, but
Shanty says to you, I haven't had hair for 25 years. He is follically impaired.
I see. That's how bad I am at observing.
So he needs to learn hair fu to make it in this world.
Make his hair grow.
That's right.
Just by centering his chi and being like,
that's right. If he has a really good bowel movement, he can cause the hair to move out of the top of his head.
Can I go a little backwards? I wanted to say, I remember one thing from my Taekwondo.
That was not backwards, Greg. If you're going to do backwards, make the sound effect.
No.
That's one of the reasons I love you, Greg.
The one things I remembered from Taekwondo is the centering your chi. It was this thing where you'd stand. I'll try to do it. Let's see if you can see me. You would do this thing, stand loose.
You learned this from Taekwondo?
Yeah,
Taekwondo doesn't have chi. That's a Chinese concept.
No, but whatever.
Taekwondo is Korean.
Yeah, they call it the kimchi. It's the centering your kimchi. You go like this.
I forgot about kimchi, the martial art.
And then you would go like this. You'd go, shoot, and your fist would be right here, like where your center is. Like that was, and it feels good. It's weird. It does really actually feel like this thing of just shoot.
What was that noise you're making?
It's like shoot.
Oh, because it was some kind of strange sound coming out of your body.
That's what it was. It was this kind of like you're exhaling lots of breath going.
Do it again. Let me see if I can recreate the noise. Say it one more time.
Shoo.
Shoo.
You're like Chewbacca.
Chewbacca.
Chewy.
Chewkadaka.
But that's the only thing I remember. I don't remember anything from Taekwondo except for the stance. I remember the stance that you're supposed to have when you're fighting. I don't remember shit.
Have you found that you ever actually needed martial arts in your life?
Probably, but I'm a coward, so I just ran instead. I mean, it would have been nice to have known that I could kick someone's ass. Some people, I think there's incidences where, oh God, that guy needs an ass kicking. Somebody has to do something. But I was like, I can't do it. I'm just gonna get beat up too. I
Here,
don't.
the weird thing is that I'm not a coward, but I never got into fights. I was kind of more of an active spectator to some extent. You know, it's like they'd be like maybe fighting around me, but I could usually diffuse situations because generally I was causing people to want to hit me, but then I would get them to like calm back down again. I think one of my issues when I was younger was always wanted to see how far I could take somebody before they lost their marbles, you know, and then I would like dial it back to where they were calm again.
Oh my god!
Get them like so
It's a
upset.
sadistic fuck. I'm gonna ruin this person's whole day for fun, so I can laugh.
No, it would only have been like your day, so you know.
That's what I'm saying, though. But I mean, when you do
Other
that to
people can
someone,
handle it.
when you push someone to the point of wanting to beat you up, they're probably you ruined their day. They're probably furious all day. They're like, oh god, I'm so pissed off.
For some reason, I think I got some pleasure out of it because I think it made me feel superior to them because I was able to maintain my calm and they were not, or some weird psychological reason why I would do something like that, you know.
But the one time when actually I was confronted with a situation where I could like help someone, even though I knew they'd probably just beat me up, I did run towards. I was me and my brother and his friends were going to a gay bar. We parked like a block away, and as we get out of the car, heard this commotion. At first, it just sounded like people having fun.
Was your brother trying to get you dates or something? Is that why he took you to the gay bar?
Well, my brother's gay, and
I know he is, but you're not, right?
No, but even when my brother wasn't in town, I loved the local gay bar, had the best karaoke in town, had really good drink prices. I like going there all the time. So I heard this commotion, then we realized, no, this isn't fun and games. Like, people are drunk going, woo! Because we could hear this guy be like, help someone. And all my brother and his friends were just frozen. And I've never been like this guy who does shit like that. I just ran towards the sound. And luckily,
were they practicing Dick Foo?
Which Dick Cool?
Dick Foo.
No, it was a bunch of basically gay bashing street punks.
Oh, gotcha.
They're kicking the shit out of this gay guy.
Well, you'd think that the homosexual community would work out their own martial art in order to combat those gay bashers.
Well, I'm sure some of them do. There's some pretty tough gay guys out there.
No, they like create their own though, like some special gay martial art.
Be careful, Matt.
What? What are you talking
Tread
about?
lightly.
What are you talking about?
Because you're going to make up some name for this, and it's going to be.
I already did. I called it Dick Foo.
Oh, so yeah, that's I don't know.
Or Cockrate. I'm actually proud of that one.
Oh my god!
I just made that one up. That's a good one. Anyway.
Jeet Kune Blow.
What?
Sorry, that was.
Yeah, you're stretching a little on that one, Greg.
Yeah, but I did, and luckily they had run off because they probably were like, okay, before the cops get here. But as soon as I got to the guy, they were running off. So I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have just gotten beat up because
I've probably run with them.
I've never been in a fight in my life. Maybe I'm like Bruce Willis in Unbreakable. I'm this amazing fighter. I don't know. Maybe it's some innate thing. I doubt it.
Yeah, you could have like hidden abilities that no one.
But I grew up watching kung fu movies, so maybe it just like sunk in. Maybe I know some moves just from watching so many Hong Kong kung fu movies.
Next time I see you in person, I'm going to ask you to demonstrate some of those.
You're just going to attack me. That's what I do.
Yeah, I'm going to tackle you. Like, all right, Greg, fend off these pumpkins that I'm going to toss at you. Show me your moves. I'll just come with like an armful of pumpkins and just toss them.
I haven't been tested most of my life because I've been always huge, a fat guy. So people don't know that's all blubber. They just think, oh shit, that guy could be strong. He's big. So I'm not gonna. So I haven't been attacked much in my life. It's not like it's come down to where I was just like, no, leave me alone. Sorry. It never gets to there.
Well, we're both at a certain age where we're not really getting in fights anymore in terms of like creating those dramas.
But I never did. I was always an easygoing guy, so it never got to that point. Like you egged them on. You were trying to get beat up. It sounds like I never did shit like that.
Didn't happen though. I mean, the last time I was in any kind of a fight was, I think, in like high school briefly for like a minute, and then we just maybe less. And we were
Was it the kind of thing where you
done
just
with
pushed each other a few times and like?
And before that, it was like 5th grade, I think. So I never really was getting into any type of fights. Again, I was more like the guy getting other people to fight each other. I think more than anything else. But the one other time was I just remember like fights like happening near me, or me trying to break up fights. That's pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah, I did that a lot. I was the fight breaker. I
Yeah.
wanted peace.
Yeah. So how did you break up fights, Greg?
I just pulled the guy off, and usually they wouldn't attack me, but sometimes I got hurt. I remember once I was breaking up a fight, and this huge guy fell back on me, totally hurt my back, and I was just like, fuck. That's what I get for being a nice guy.
Nice guy. I was trying to do it, and then he hit my back. And that, or it's just because you didn't learn good balance from your lack of martial arts training.
Could be, but
there's no could be about it, Greg. It's definite.
I might have had better balance, but he still fell back on me, and I wasn't quick enough. You're right. I wasn't quick enough to.
You need to be lighter on your feet. You be more like float like a butterfly, sting like a jellyfish.
Like the Beverly Hills Ninja, the big fat ninja.
Like Chris Farley.
Chris Farley.
All right, well, I think we've exhausted this topic of martial arts, considering Greg and I really don't know anything about martial arts. But once again, our client was five-fingered...
Don't stop.
Exploding spleen technique. Don't stop.
I just want to bring up. I wanted to bring up this one. I always found this hilarious. That there's an imaginary martial art.
Yes.
That was in the 80s. There was a movie called Jim Kata. Spelled like Jim. Like
yeah. Wasn't that with Cynthia Rothrock?
It was a guy named Kurt something who was like the Olympic gymnast that year.
Right. And he had like one movie. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and they thought, okay, this guy's like good looking, and knows.
Even though he was like 5 feet tall or something.
So they pretended that there was this martial art called Gym Kata, which was like gymnastics mixed with Asian martial arts.
Kata is basically just the form that people are doing. Yeah.
I guess, but it was totally made up.
No, it is. I mean, that's something I learned. One of the few things I remember from judo is kata.
But to be honest, our client this week is a made up martial art. That is not a real thing.
It's totally a real thing.
You cannot touch his chest.
I will use my 5-fingered exploding spleen technique on you right now.
And then you will have psoriasis next week. It'll take a week. I don't know if psoriasis has anything to do with the spleen. It probably doesn't. But the where we get this
it's where the psoriasis is located. It's right in the spleen. Spleen, of course, as we know, is right directly behind the kneecap.
Yeah, of course. Everyone knows that.
That's where it's kept in a little pocket.
Sometimes it's near your ankles too. It floats
around. It's like a slug
up and down the calf.
It's like an internal slug. It just moves around in your body. The spleen, where it feels like going.
Depending on the temperature. If it's hot, it's up in your knee, and when it gets colder, it sinks down.
It's like how you keep your temperatures.
It's the thermometer.
You track your splenometer.
It's the thermometer of the organs.
Everyone knows that's what the spleen does. The spleen is what regulates our internal temperature through packing ice cubes into our toes. Oh yeah, speaking of which, there was a martial art I totally forgot. It totally involves the extremities, but the very specific extremities, and that is tofu, which many people have heard of, and no one really knows the techniques for it.
And all you can use is your toes.
That's right. Nothing else. Like somehow you have to get them to kind of fly off the end of your feet and like poke people in the eyes. That is a true tofu master can do. You didn't know about that one.
I like that one. That's a good one.
Because there's like different kinds of tofu. You've got your hard.
Oh, but
you got your soft and your creamy.
And it's better if you marinate
wheezing.
your toes.
Yeah, definitely old. I'm wheezing.
If you marinate your toes in like some kind of soy sauce, it's more effective.
Yeah, a little frying goes a long
Yeah.
way. It's like Rocky Mountain oysters,
We are forgetting another, I'm pretty sure is a made up style, is that drunken master kung fu that all the movies would highlight.
I don't think that's made up. I mean, Jackie Chan would do it. But the thing about Jackie Chan is that Jackie Chan wasn't really a martial artist when he got into the pictures. He came out of like the Chinese opera.
Yeah,
He was a gymnastic guy. You know, so I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I mean, he kind of perfected the drunken style of kung fu
there were other
in his movies.
It became a popular thing, drunken master style.
Which does make sense because like the kung fu guys were like Buddhists, and I didn't know that Buddhists were drinkers.
I don't know, but I'm thinking I should call myself drunken master. Maybe I'm really good at that.
And why is it that the Shaolin Temple is the only temple we ever heard about? We never heard about the other temples. Only the Shaolin Temple.
Because maybe they were like the warrior monks.
Did you say monks?
I did. Monks.
Monkeys. They're warrior monkeys.
The monks. That's racist, man.
The monks. They are the warrior monks. We're gonna overemphasize things.
When you're a fan of kung fu movies, it's like half the movies have Shaolin in the title. It's so weird. It's like
it's like what makes them so special?
There's like hundreds of movies.
Was it the Shaolin Temple that was behind the Boxer Rebellion in China? Was that where they came from?
I think so, but I think they were around for longer than that, like for a long time.
Well, I mean, they were like the go-to temple, allegedly. I mean, what do we know? We know only from kung fu movies. But we don't know if this is real or not.
I studied some Asian history in college, so
did you study like more offensive words in your Asian history class?
Yeah, because we were the primary sources.
You're the primarily progenitors of Asian caricatures, stereotypes, and offensive terms.
When Jefferson Davis gave a speech to the Confederacy in 1862,
the man you idolized,
they didn't scratch out the word. We read what they said. Which is what historians should know.
Right, and that's fine in history books, just not on broadcasted podcasts.
Okay, but so then we can't talk about history correctly.
We can talk about history, but we can
it won't
do
be
it
quite correct.
We can do it in a way where it can still be explained without being derogatory.
You sound like a coolie right now.
You sound like a racist.
I'm sorry. I even asked Chinese friends about this, and they're like, "Yeah, it is. I'm not sure. It's because nobody uses that word. I haven't used it in a long time. It's not this slur that's prevalent. Like, hey, look at the coolie over there." But it is this thing that I'm always.
You've just used it like 3 times already.
Yeah, sorry. Okay,
because you don't care.
Let's see.
It's okay. It's okay, Greg. I get it. You don't care. Why don't you start calling them like slant eyes or something too while you're at it?
No,
Greg?
because that's just a flat out. It's always been a racist.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah,
there's the issue.
But the C
it's
word.
Like you're willing to use one racist term, but not another. Because you can't decide what kind of racist you want to be.
No, because it's relatively seen as racist. It was never like it was just like that's what that group was known as. Just like nomads, the nomads, the whatever.
Nomads was not used in a derogatory way.
The indentured servants.
That wasn't used in a derogatory way either.
I'm sure if there were still indentured servants, they'd say, "No, call us this."
No, indentured was an actual term, and they were servants. They weren't used in offended. They weren't used to malign a group of people. It was just the term for those people. That is all. Like the term you're using is defining people who were. What was the term again? It was.
Don't you think they felt offended when you called them indentured servants? Eventually, they would have been like, "Don't call us that."
They know that they're indentured servants.
We want to be called temporary.
They signed the documents that made them that.
Yes.
So yeah, it's like legally that's the term that was used in the legal documents, Greg. It's not the same thing. It's not used to specifically malign a group of people.
And black people at one time said, we want you to call us colored. That's what we want. And then they changed it.
Okay. Well, you're allowed to if you're the people in question.
So maybe the indentured servants would have been like, yeah, we signed those papers. We know.
All right. You go find the evidence on that and we'll have that discussion.
Well, it ended, so they didn't have time to.
I'm sure it's somewhere. I mean, slavery still exists in this world in different places. So I'm sure there's indentured servitude happening in different places as well.
No, it definitely is. Yeah. You're right.
And I don't know that saying somebody's an indentured servant is worse than calling somebody a slave. Because, again, it's just describing the state of beingness.
Well, you can't say because you don't know. You're not one of them.
I am right now. I'm an indentured servant to you.
My idiocy.
Yes, exactly. Your inanity. Anyway, all right. Well, this has been the client 5-fingered exploding spleen technique. And this is the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker live on TikTok and on YouTube, but now no longer live on TikTok because nobody's really paying attention on TikTok.
I've been Drunken Master Greg. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, you should learn that technique, Greg.
I'm pretty good at it, I'm sure.
All right, and I want to thank the guys from from the adjunct office of the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker in North Dakota, known as the Happy Hour News Team. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And I apologize to everybody else for referring to the Happy Hour News Team. For anybody else who watches this in the future, check those guys out. They're entertaining. They have the news that was something or other, whatever their slogan is. The news you didn't know you needed, or the news that basically involves masturbation. I think that's really what their tagline is. So,
all the news that's fit to
jack off to. That's their new slogan.
All the news that's fit to jack off to.
All right, we're gonna stop the live stream on YouTube right now, and this is Matt and Greg with the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. God, I hope I recorded this. Anyway. Yes, I did. Good night, everybody.
Your consultation with the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker has ended. You may pay your retainer at www.qsblaw.org. Please exit to the right of the water cooler and grab a candy from the front desk. We hope to see you again soon, but you need to leave now. I said leave. Why don't they ever listen? Get out! Get out!